Hello outdoor fans, I have just been cleaning my bike and I thought I'd take the opportunity to talk you through my shortlist for the next bike, what I looked at, what I researched, and maybe my research will be more useful to you. So first thing, why swap me bike? Well, there is nothing wrong with this bike and I do actually love this Patriot. It's the right size, works well, gets me up mountains, 750 watt hour battery gets me good range. Not interested in more power as such. In fact, when you look at my settings I use, I'll put them on the screen now. And since I had these settings, or since I had a new motor at Christmas, so in the last 500 miles or so, 500 kilometers or so, and as you can see, I mainly use Tour with a bit of auto, tiny bit of eMTB plus, and a tiny bit of eco. And then when you actually drill further down into that, here's my restricted Tour settings, and here is my restricted auto settings. eMTB plus is full power, eco's even less. So I'm not really interested in more power because what I'm interested in is the maximum range. So why would I swap? Well, mainly because I'm a tart and I've had this bike just over 2 years. And that seems a good time. I think now is a good time to swap a bike at the start of summer. You then get the full riding on a fresh new bike. I really think it's really bad to buy a bike in September and go straight into winter, whereas now you can get a new bike, use it fully fresh in the summer where the wear's less, sort of finish off the wear of drive items through the winter and then do a refresh for the next year, which is what I'd recently done on this bike with a new rear mech and stuff. So this bike is a medium, 63 degree head angle, 464 reach and 343mm bottom bracket height. And I mention those because those are key metrics for me when I'm looking at buying a bike. What size? I want somewhere between about a 62.5 and a 64 degree head angle. I find that works well for my style of riding. You want the lowest bottom bracket you can get without it being too low. And that sort of 343 on this 170 is just about, I'd probably prefer more like a 345 on a 170, 343 on a 160mm would be ideal. So if my key things for the geometry of a new bike are that head angle, 62.5 to 64, bottom bracket height, a little bit dependent on the rear suspension, but somewhere around the 345 build, and the reach, most important in the sizing, 464 is what this is. That is pretty much spot on. So I did the Amflow test recently that had a 455 reach on a medium, and it wasn't too small, but it wasn't quite as roomy as I would like. When I did the Cube 144 test, let me just check my notes, 449, that was actually too short for me long term. It wasn't, if I was having a Cube 144, I'd want a large to get that roomier. Funnily enough, when I did the Cube 177 test, that was on a large, but the 177 was a roomy bike to start with, so I'm just checking my notes. 477 on the reach, and that was too much. So, lots of bikes out there that could replace this. What am I looking for motor wise? Well, I've done quite a few bike tests. I've ridden the Shimano motor, I've ridden the Bosch Gen 5, I've ridden the Bosch race motor, I've ridden the M1 Avinox, I've ridden the M2 Avinox, and I think between the Bosch and the Avinox there's not a lot of difference, but even though the stats aren't fully out there yet, my feeling from people who particularly had the M1 and ran it in a lower restricted power mode is they had more range than people on the Bosch in a lower restricted power mode. And there's some sort of 2,000 metre elevation rides that I've not attempted because I didn't think I had the battery to do it. About 1,700, 1,750 metres is the limit of the 750 watt hour Bosch Gen 4. I don't think the Gen 5 is any more efficient. So, but the Avinox M1 does seem to be in the lower power. Obviously it's easy to rinse the battery in the higher power modes. But for the people who run the lower restricted power modes, they were getting some really good elevation, which I think is the biggest factor, not mileage. On how far the range of a motor, the biggest factor is elevation, and they seem to be getting better on their 800 watt hour batteries than people on Bosch. So I fancy the Avinox M2S motor, which I will detune, 800 watt hour battery. I want that 62.5 to 64 head angle. I want around a 464 reach, let's say 460 to 470, and I want a bottom bracket height around about 345 and £9,000. That's what I'm putting for a new bike, and there's 9 bikes on my shortlist, so £9,000 Avinox M2S bikes. Here we go. Here's my shortlist. So we're going to start at number 2 on my shortlist, work through to 9, and then leave number 1 till the end and explain why that is number 1 for me in my criteria. So number 2 on the shortlist, it's the Whyte Karve Evo, and when I say there's a £9,000 budget, this bike is the cheapest on the list, sort of, at 7,300 quid. It's also the one with the most suspension, 180 front and rear, and yes, it's the Avinox motor, the 800 watt hour battery. It's got the ASX S1000 gear set, it's got the Maven brakes, it's a mullet. I should have said I do want a mullet bike rather than a 29er. I'm only 5'8", 5'9", and I find, particularly as I'm like a 90s rider, that's where a lot of my muscle memory from riding is from, then I do lean back quite a bit, and I've had 29ers before, and I do find that the rear wheel, when I'm going down the steep stuff, I sit on it, and my balls appreciate a 27 rear. It took me long enough to adapt from a 26 rear, so I don't want a 29er rear. So yeah, so it is a mullet, and it's got, even though it's one of the cheapest bikes on this list at 7.3, it's got the top spec RockShox, the Zeb Ultimate, Vivid Ultimate, Trans X Dropper, and the stats: 63.3 head, 350 bottom bracket, which on a 180, that's well within the range that I want, and reach 457, almost there to me, sort of 460 to 470. But what a bike for that price. I am a preference to a Fox, and I do want a Fox factory. One of the things that I don't like about this bike is that I went for the Fox Performance, because when I did get the e-bike, I thought I'd use it to get some fitness and get back onto the Alpine once I had a bit more fitness. But the e-bike completely changed how I ride, what sort of things I want to ride. So I'm definitely an e-biker now. But because I bought it expecting to go back to the pedal bike, I didn't spec the factory, and I have regretted that. So my ideal would be a Fox factory, but I wouldn't rule out a bike if it had, like this Whyte, the Zeb Ultimate, Vivid Ultimate combo. So number 2 on my list, could well be top of some people's lists. One of the things, I would like a bike nowish, and that is available summer, whatever that means. But that bike specs everything that I want. So I am looking for more range. So the Patriot is 170, 170, like 160, 150 I think would be my ideal. I wouldn't want to go lower than that. 180, 180, I wouldn't say no, but it is a lot of suspension, and if I'm trying to push the range, then having a little less suspension generally means a little bit lighter bike, and generally means a little bit more efficient when you're pedaling. So, maybe, but I'll say number 2 on my short list. What a bike. I'm sure it will be a cracker. I'd love a test on that, love to test that on the channel. So we'll have to see if I can make that happen at some point this year. But the specs on that look brilliant. So number 3 on the list, it's the Mondraker Zendit. A little bit more expensive, but still 7.4. 170, 165, so a little bit less suspension. Again, the 800 watt hour battery that I want. Again, it's the S1000 ASX gears with Mavin brakes, DT mullet. It's got the Fox factory suspension that I prefer, an on-off dropper that I'm not particularly familiar with, but 63.5 head, 345 bottom bracket, 460 reach, all within what I want. But September is the availability on that one, and I really would like a bike like soon. So number 4 on the list, and you've got to put it in there, it's the Amflow PX. Whether it's the Pro at 9 grand or the standard at 6.5, 160, 150, ideal sort of suspension setup. But it does have, the PX has the 700 watt hour. So, the difference between my 750 and an 800 watt hour, 7%, which equates to about an extra 130 meters of elevation range. That's how I judge the range. I find that elevation is the biggest factor. So if I can do 1750, and let's call it 150 extra, we're up at 1900 meters. As efficient as this M2S motor is, that extra, or that 100 watt hour less, that's going to be 250 meters elevation difference between the 800 and the 700 on a ride. It's just physics. So yes, it does enable that 1500 watts, but that's just going to rinse the battery faster. I'm quite happy with 1300 watts. In fact, I'm quite happy with 600 watts. So, but you've got to put it in because it is a bargain. And the 9 grand one has the XO gears, the 6.5 grand one has the S1000. It's the Gustav brakes rather than the Maven. Again, it's a mullet, both Amflow's own wheels, on the cheaper one alloy, on the more expensive one carbon. You either get Fox Performance on the cheaper one, Fox Factory on the more expensive one, an Amflow dropper, and although it has the 40 different options for geometry, so you can go plus or minus 1 degree on the head angle as standard. It is a 64.5, so that's easy enough to get within my range of 62.5 to 64. 345 bottom bracket height is ideal. It is available now, 455 reach on the medium. It's a little bit, I was going to say less roomy. It wasn't the wrong size when I tested it, but I would prefer a little bit more room on the bike. But again, it's not a deal breaker. But one thing that I don't like on the Amflow is you have one colour choice per spec, and most of these bikes on the list, you generally got a choice of 1 or 2 colour combos, which I think is a bit of a shame. When you're spending a lot of money on a bike, you want it to be your own, and to have that limited choice, I think is a bit poor. And particularly as I don't particularly like the 2 choices of the Amflow. But they say the main thing for me is that 700 watt hour. I do want the 800, but it still made it to number 4 on my list. So now we get to number 5, and it's the Velduro Rouge R. This is a £9,000 bike, 170, 165. It's got the GX AXS gears, the Maven brakes, Velduro's own carbon mullet wheels. It's got the Fox Factory that I'd like, a 1-up dropper, and the specs are right there, 63.5, 342 bottom bracket, 466 reach, and it's sort of available now, very limited, pre-order, not too sure, but one of the reasons that it's down at 5 on my list is, like I say, one of the reasons I'm getting a new bike is I'm a bit of a tight, and the Velduro as a brand doesn't particularly do much for me, but all the specs are right there. It's got to be on the list. It is right at the top of the £9,000 range that I have set, but it hits all the marks, and the feedback on the bikes in the past has been good, so I expect it to be a good bike. I just don't feel that that connection with the brand, at least like the Whyte. It's a British brand, even if they're not British manufacturers. They used to sponsor quite a few enduro events. I've liked the Mondrakers for a while. They were one of the people that really pushed the sort of longer bikes that I liked, going back sort of 15 years. So yeah, but I say the Velduro, just, you know, you're spending money, you want your heart as well as your head to be in the bike, and for me, there's just something there that doesn't resonate with me. That's a personal thing entirely. So number 6, and you've got to put it in there. It's the Atherton, the 170e. It's 9 grand. It's 180, 170. Again, we're stuck with the 700 watt hours, but the spec, you've got the XO gears like you've got on the Amflow PX Pro at 9 grand, where everything else is generally on the S1000 GX AXS. It's got haze brakes, which I'm not massively familiar with, but they're supposed to be good. Mavic wheels, mullet again, Fox factory, Fox dropper, 63.6, 348, and because they do like 12 sizes, you can basically have whatever reach you want. So the reach is definitely within the range. But like if I order one now, July, August is when I would expect it. But made in Wales, big thing for me is supporting British manufacturing. One of the reasons I have an orange, I'd really like to do that, but longer lead time, and then I don't disagree with the engineering side of the Athertons with the bonded lugs to get all those frame sizes, but it does give me a bit of Rally Dynatech from the 90s vibes. And yeah, I don't particularly like the look of the bike, but the spec for what you get is immense, and the fact that it's made in Wales, local bike, should get a lot of support. Know it's well tested. The Athertons have done a great job there. I've heard good things about the after sales as well, so definitely should be there. The main reason it is down in 6 on my list is that 700 watt hour battery, not the 800. When I want to get to like 1900, maybe a 2000 meter ride, I think I need that 800 watt hours with all the efficiency of this new M2S motor. So number 7, and this is the Megamo Reason CRB O2. So the O1's 11 grand, the O2 is the 9 grand one, but it is right there, 800 watt hours, 160 mil travel, the ASX S1000 that most of these bikes have got, DT 29er, that's one of the reasons it's down in 7, because it is a 29er rather than a mullet, but it's got the Zeb Ultimate, Vivid Ultimate combo, Maven brakes, reverb, ASX dropper as well, and 63.5, 348, 470. It's basically bang on. It's the longest reach in my 460 to 470 range, but it's there, and 348 on a 160 mil. Probably want 345 bottom bracket, but it's right there. I say I'm more of a Fox guy, but you cannot argue with the Zeb Ultimate, Vivid Ultimate combo. Absolutely monster bike, 9 grand, right on my limit, buzzing, but it is down in 7, mainly because of that 29er. I really want a mullet for my short little legs and my 90s style of leaning back on the steeps. So number 8, the Forbidden Druid. Again, we're looking at the tier 2, it's 9.2, so just over my 9 grand limit, but it is a 160, 150 ideal setup that I want. It's the 800 watt hour. It's the slightly better SRAM GX ASX gearing, Maven brakes that near enough all the bikes on this list have got. Crank Brothers mullet wheels. It's the Fox factory, 64 head, and but the reach, either I can have 447, which is a bit short, or 467, but then on the 467 reach on that size, I know I've not talked about standover height on other ones, but it does push the seat tube standover height a little bit beyond what I'd like, and with its -25 bottom bracket. If you are riding pork, built trails all the time, you can get away with a lower bottom bracket and exploit that extra handling. I'm riding natural terrain, I'm riding jank. I need that sort of 345, and it's a 336 -25 bottom bracket, but it is available now if limited. But yeah, I think that to get the reach I'd want, having a bit too big a standover height, and that bottom bracket that is a bit too low for the sort of natural terrain that I want. But if you are someone who rides basically exclusively built trails, that bottom bracket height is not going to be a problem for you. You know, crack on. But 9.2, slightly over my limit. And then we get to the 9th bike on my shortlist. And if you thought that the Druid at 9.2 was slightly over my limit, the Pivot Amped GX at 10k is way over. But I had to put this on the list to consider it, but it is just overpriced. The top spec one is 12 grand, but it is 160, 150. It is the 180 watt hour battery. It is the ASX GX gears on the 10 grand one. It's the Maven brakes, DT Swiss mullet wheels. But 10 grand bike, and it comes with Fox Performance. You need to go to 12 grand to get the factory. So yeah, but 63.7, 340 bottom bracket, just there, a little bit on the low side. And on the third size up, the MD, you get the 460 reach, which is within the range that I would want. But for that, no, it's why it's the 9th one on my list, and it isn't 9 grand either, but that was my 9 options. Well, you've had 8 of them, you've not heard the number 1 option yet. But yeah, I had to put it on to put it in so that you can also, if you're looking at this sort of range of bikes, you can see what I think and what I've compared. And as I say, if you are a 6'6" rider, you probably want a 29er, which is something that I don't want. Everyone wants something different. I'll say with the bottom bracket height, if you're not riding quite the sort of janky natural terrain that I want when I ride, then you could get away with a lower bottom bracket and have better handling. But there's a compromise there on everything. Nothing is perfect and nothing is right for everyone. Everyone is different shapes and sizes. Everyone rides different terrain. So I'm only saying what matters to me and why it matters to me. So let's get on with the number 1, and I don't think it'll be a surprise to people that it's the Orange Phase Avinox factory. It's 8750, so it's under my 9 grand. It's got the 800 watt hour battery, so 160, 160, fantastic. It is the only bike on this list that doesn't have the electronically shifting gears. It has the SRAM Eagle 90, and at first when I was looking at this I was really disappointed because I really fancied those. That electric shift, the way that the Avinox motor links in with it, backs off the power as you shift to reduce the chain wear, and I was like, oh, I'll have to do that upgrade. But then looked into it a little bit, and it's not an upgrade I'm going to do straight away. But the Eagle 90 is SRAM's strongest rear derailleur they've ever made. and the shifting is good under load. I'm also going to detune the power, so I don't quite need the backing off of the power when you change gear. So I'm going to give it a go, not really now upgrading to the ASX, but yeah, the Eagle 90 is the top spec non-electronic gear from SRAM. Still a T-type, brilliant. Again, it comes with the Maven brakes, and enough everything does. Hope hubs, which I'm a big fan of Hope, with Stans floor rims. It is a mullet. The factory model 8750 has the Fox factory. The RS model 8250 has rock shocks, but not the ultimate. It has the super deluxe. So yeah, and then it's got Fox Fox dropper, and the 8250 version, the RS, has a KS. And yeah, 64-degree head, fine. 343 bottom bracket height, fine. 464, it's 465 reach, 1 mil different than my Patriot. Bang on for what I know that I want. But there's more reasons that this is number one on my list, and probably doesn't apply to most people. But I like to support British manufacturing, so Orange being manufactured 50 kilometres in a straight line that way has a lot of appeal to me, and it's why I've had a lot of Orange bikes here, the Alpine, the Patriot, and this one will actually be my 7th Orange in 12 years. But the other thing is, I'm also a big fan of Hope technology. And normally you won't be able to change the spec on an Orange, but when you're me, who has been running enduro events that have been sponsored by Orange and Hope for, well, since 2013, and we're in 2026 now, then I have a little bit of leeway, so I can actually have a custom spec. So I can change those stands, wheels, and the Bergtech boys, and I can fit a full, and the Maven brakes, I can fit a full Hope kit onto this bike as new. Now on some of the others, I work with quite a few bike shops. There are shops I know deal with these brands and would help me if I bought a new bike off them and brought a load of Hope kit to sell the other bits and whatever, and get them changed sort of, you know, from new. That is definitely something. It's definitely a reason to have a good relationship with your local bike shop, because then if you do want a new bike and you like a particular brake or whatever, then you can often work with a decent local bike shop to change the odd thing on a bike. So I can change everything to a full Hope build kit. Just tap the screen so I can see it. So that's important to me. And the other thing, and I sort of mentioned it with the Amflow, but a lot of these bikes, you have 1 or 2 choices of colour. With the Avinox factory, Phase Avinox factory from Orange, there are 9 colour choices for anybody to have. There's 2 pinks, 2 greens, orange, yellow, grey, white and blue. And even on the RS model, you still get 3 choices. And if you're a bit of a tart and you want something, you know, like I'm already changing a lot of the kit to all Hope, so it'll be a custom spec to me. To have a colour that, if there's 9 colours, then, you know, generally 10-20% of people are going to have any one colour. So you get a more unique bike, and if you're a bit of a tart, that can be important, and I'm a bit of a tart. So, so I'm gonna have a phase Avinox fully hoped out, as you know. And we did a video with Orange when we built this Patriot with, you know, everything hope on it. This is my previous Alpine, and again you'll notice the trend, everything is hope. So that's one of the reasons that the Orange is top of my list, that I can do that full hope swap very easily. Yeah, so you'll have to wait to see what colour I have chosen, but they are available now, which was important to me. So that should be coming, should be seeing that in June. So stay tuned, like and subscribe, and I hope that the run through of these £9,000 bikes was useful to you.